Well, we have begun our Easter hiking trip. We were dropped off at Beech Gap in North Carolina, where we stopped last summer after having hiked the entire Georgia section at mile marker 85. We are heading up to Standing Indian Mountain, so we have a pretty good climb ahead of us. We're hitting the trail at about 10:45 in the morning, and our schedule that we set for ourselves is today would be a 13-mile trip. They put a log across there and then they built a bridge over top of the log. Obviously this would be a much better water source at one point. So as I was saying, today's going to be a 13-mile segment of our trip. We plan on hiking for the next 4 days, section hiking, and if all goes well, we will end at Tellico Gap at the end of these 4 days. So we're standing at part way up Standing Indian Mountain, and we've got a little bit of a view. About a mile up the trail from Beech Gap is the Standing Indian shelter. Here's that shelter about 0.1 off the trail. It's at the top of this little ridge. Really nice view. Now, we're not going to be staying here tonight, so we're going to go ahead and head back to the trail. There is the indicator of this side trail, and that's indicated by a blue blaze. Spring has not quite sprung up here. As you can see, there's no greenery on the trees yet, so you can kind of see some distant views. And of course, we just keep following the white blazes. In bear management area, so hopefully we will not see any bears on trail that we weren't expecting or that won't run away from us. But so far we're enjoying the cool air. We did take our sun hoodies off. It was getting a little bit warm, so I put them in my backpack here. This would have been a really cool tree to see alive. Clearly it fell down, and it's almost in an S shape. Raylene, what do they call this kind of tree that they bend?
An Indian marker?
An Indian marker, yeah. This might be an Indian marker where they had the tree here and they bent the marker so they knew to go up around this area here for the switchback. And what they do is they'll take a tree and they'll bend a tree or a branch of it so that when it grows, it's pointing the direction that it's supposed to go. And I'm not saying that it's what that was, but this is Standing Indian Mountain, and this definitely looks like a tree that was bent in a configuration that might be a marker for this switchback here. We are not quite to the top of Standing Indian Mountain. We're definitely on a ridge. You can see the drop down on this side, the drop down on this side with some views over here. And over here, We'll have some better views later, but we're starting to get a glimpse of the good long views that are available to us when we get to the top. So we made it to the top of Standing Indian Mountain and got a couple of photographs of the view. Unfortunately, the views were a little smoky because of some recent wildfires in the area. We did cross 4 hikers that were from Atlanta, and they looked like they were going to do quite a section hike similar to us. But now that we've reached the top of Indian Standing Mountain, we're going to now begin a gradual descent, probably for about the next 3 miles. So it's going to probably feel a whole lot better than the 2.5 miles up to the top. We are stopped and just kind of admiring the views, and we are on the way down from Standing Indian Mountain, and our next estimated stop is going to be at Beech Gap, but right now we are on a slow descent toward Beech Gap. It's kind of hard to make all of the damage out, but there's so much damage from the Hurricane Helene that came through the area. There's more damage further north, but you can see definitely some remnants of it as far as this area here, which is right around the mile marker 90 to 92. And this stop also happened to be where we have one of our first clear views of Albert Mountain, which we will be going to tomorrow, and it is on mile marker 100. We decided to stop in this really nice area called Beech Gap, and it's for a tent site. So this is where we're gonna have lunch. Well, lunch is over and we are now coming out of Beech Gap, and we have a lot more greenery on this part of the trail, and the surface is really nice and smooth and flat with a few creek crossings such as this one, which we do not need water right now, so I'm gonna bypass this one in lieu of a better creek to get water and filter later on in the hike. But the surface, we're able to go nearly 3 miles an hour on this surface. There's no rocks or roots as much as we had before. So we'll see how our pace picks up or not. We're at about the 5.86 mile mark from the start of Beech Gap. Nice soothing sound of a cool, cold creek. This is Kilby Creek. Well, we're over halfway on our hike from Beech Gap to Mooney Gap, and as you can see, the trail is a lot smoother and more cruisy, which allows us to increase our pace to about 3 or 3.5 miles per hour. So up to this point, we've had a lot of rocks and roots to navigate, but now we've got a little bit of cruisiness ahead of us. So as you can see, Raylene is making some pretty good progress up ahead. And of course, as soon as I say that, we have some roots and some blowdowns. Mooney Gap. Well, we've reached a somewhat of a summit at the top of Timber Ridge Trail. Raylene and I are losing a little bit of steam, having not done this kind of a hiking in a while. We've gone past the 8-mile mark and we got about 5 left. But I'm sure we'll get our second wind at some point. But right now these hills are kicking our tail a little bit, but we'll be all right. So I'm looking at the trail and it looks like we're gonna go down here and then we're gonna make a switchback and we're probably gonna come all the way over these ridge lines, and there's 3 mountaintops over there in the distance. I'll zoom in on it. Those 3, and the middle one is Albert Mountain. And if you could look really, really close, tomorrow morning, we're gonna be at the top of that mountain. You can see the tower just past those twigs. And that's where we're gonna be tomorrow morning. So we've made it up to Carter Gap. And in Carter Gap, there's a lot of blowdowns, as you can see here on the ground. And here's the shelter, Carter Gap shelter. We're not going to be spending the night, but sometimes it's fun just to see what the shelters look like. This one looks pretty nice. Somebody left a tent stake here. And it looks like room for about maybe 5 or 6 people. Nice little shelter. This is Carter Gap shelter. Oh yeah, it's got a bench there, and it's got another one over there. We are on the other side of Albert Mountain, which we will be at tomorrow morning. And I'm going to zoom in, and you can see the tower just at the top, right over there. But besides that, we have a pretty good view. We're at 4,900 feet in the elevation, and we're now on the shady side of the mountain, so it's a little bit cooler. And there's quite a bit of good views over here, but the views will get better as we get further down the trail. But we found this nice little resting spot, so we're going to stay here, get some hydration, enjoy our accomplishment of making it this far. We're now 9.5 miles into our 13.1 mile trip for today. So we're walking, and we are at about the 10.25 mile mark in our trip today. And we are on a blue blaze off of the AT. And the Far Out app says that this is a view, so we are going to see it for the first time together. Oh my goodness. This is what you hike for. How about that? This space does not even have a name. It's just called a view, and it is a very nice view. It's really nice and peaceful up here. Virtually no clouds in the sky. Well, we are about 12.25 miles into our hike, and we have reached Beech Gap Trail. There's a campsite here, and it also reads that it's the Southern Nantahala Wilderness and Nantahala National Forest. There are tent sites here, and it was about 1.5 miles straight downhill, so we had it pretty cruisy up to this point. Now we're going into our final leg of completing our section hike from Beech Gap in North Carolina to Mooney Gap. Well, we have successfully hiked from Beech Gap to Mooney Gap and came from that direction, and now our next stopping point is the car. So I'm going to be walking up this way in the final couple of steps. I am showing 13.07 miles on the day, which is equivalent to a half marathon. And as we approach the end of this part of our section hike, you can see our car is here waiting for us because we shuttled to Beech Gap and came back. Feeling accomplished?
I am.
Well, you did it.
Our goal and we met it. I'm proud of us.
Yep, we did good. On to another one tomorrow, right?